Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. There's a message that Rigathi Gachagua shared on his X handle that has gotten the entire Kenya Kwanza shocked. Now, this message is about the election of Malawi. Now, first and foremost, before I take you through the message, you understand that the former president, rather the incumbent, Chakwera, delivered his message conceding defeat. Now, I'm going to share that video in this analysis, but first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take you to an explosive message, congratulatory message that has come from Rigathi Gachagua. There's a very, very important reason why this message needs a lot of attention, because remember, Malawi has just exposed how one can be a one-term, and Rigathi's agenda is one-term. So before I take you through this message, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to encourage you to always support our channel by liking this video and also subscribing to our channel. For those of you who have not subscribed before, once again, thank you so much for that support. Now, Rigathi has said, "Congratulations, President-elect Professor Peter Mutharika, and the great and resilient people of Malawi on their historic democratic victory. On your election as the 7th President of the Republic of Malawi, your win is a great victory, too consequential in the history of future African elections to be ignored by anyone. This election was more than a national triumph for the Republic of Malawi. It is a continental statement. It is a declaration that Africa, the rising continent and a home to 1.5 billion people, is no longer a playground for religious hypocrisy, conmanship, corruption, pathological lies, dictatorship, and self-serving regimes. The people of Malawi have demonstrated that the ballot remains the most powerful tool of liberation, where governments have failed to listen to their people. To those clinging to power through lies, state-sponsored violence and propaganda, religious hypocrisy, tribal manipulation, and arithmetic goonism tendencies, abuse of constitutions, and state capture, the bells are ringing. From Idi Amin to Mobutu, from Bokassa to Mugabe, the era of oligarchy and strongmen has collapsed under the weight of people's power on the ballot. Malawi has reminded us that African citizens are awake. They see, they feel, they think, they act. Kenya is equally watching ahead of 2027 general elections, and Kenyans are wise people. I call on the people of the Republic of Kenya to draw strength from Malawi's courage and exercise of sovereign power. Just like our Malawian brothers and sisters, we must reject fear and cynicism, reject hopelessness, and reclaim our future through democratic means. Congratulations once again, His Excellency President-elect Professor Peter Mutharika. Your victory is Africa's victory. Let it ring loudly in the hearts of all those still waiting for justice, dignity, real leadership, and liberation. His Excellency President Chakwera, you have exhibited great maturity for conceding defeat and calling the President-elect Professor Mutharika on congratulating him. The will of the people is supreme. Now, if you can go back to that statement again and just peruse through it, then Rigathi has delivered two perceptions here. One term is real. And then he went ahead and congratulated the incumbent Chakwera.
From those official results, it was clear that my main rival, His Excellency Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party, had already secured an insurmountable lead and is the presumptive winner of the presidential election. For this reason, a moment ago, I called Professor Mutharika directly to congratulate him on his historic victory and to wish him well in his upcoming tenure as the 7th President of the Republic of Malawi.
Now, what is happening here is that Rigathi is delivering a message to Ruto. This message, honestly speaking, it is to Ruto and to the people of the Republic of Kenya that one term can be actualized through the ballot. Of course, Kenya and Malawi have different political dimensions, but Rigathi's statement is very simple, that one term is real. Now, of course, in Africa, this is where leaders have clung to power for a very long time. People want to stay in power forever. And I know Rigathi did not mention Museveni for just a specific reason of the East African unity. I know Rigathi Gachagua wanted to mention Museveni because Museveni is one of those people in East Africa who has been in power ever since 80s there until now. He's the longest serving president, and in fact is going to the general election, and again he's seeking for another last term. According to him, he said he needs one last term. But again, if you look at the politics that Bobby Wine is trying to put there, Bobby Wine has made sure that he's going to make Museveni retire in the ballot. So we're just going to wait for what is going to happen. The elections, I think, are scheduled for next month. And I also had a conversation where Museveni was telling Bobby Wine that he can support him now. And then when he finishes his term, he will be able to support Bobby Wine and campaign for Bobby Wine. Of course, that was a political statement which Bobby Wine was not going to take and trust. You know, you can't trust a politician who just tells you blindly that ni support, alafu nitakusupport. We've seen this in Kenya where people say ni support and then nitakusupport, like the issue of Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua. So these are statements which cannot be welcomed by a serious politician. Now let's get back to the statement, the memo from Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi has mentioned so many things there, so many ills of any government. But if you look at what Rigathi was mentioning there, you will agree with me that Rigathi Gachagua was merely attacking this government of the Republic of Kenya. The message was to congratulate the president-elect of Malawi, but the details were of the current regime in Kenya. So there are two things here. We will wait to see whether the president-elect is going to react to Rigathi Gachagua's message. That is Peter Mutharika, whether he's going to do that. We are just going to wait for that to happen. But again, during the inauguration of this president, or the swearing in, you will agree with me that the Malawian president will invite the president of the Republic of Kenya. So the biggest question is, will he also invite Rigathi Gachagua? Because Rigathi was a deputy president, former deputy president. Is he going to do that? Most likely he's not going to do it. He's only going to invite William Ruto. I've not checked to see whether William Ruto congratulated Peter Mutharika, but we know that Ruto and the former president, that is the incumbent president Chakwera, they are buddies. They share ideologies. They are all pro-church people. People rose to power because of church. Both of them have similarities. Both of them used the church. Both of them had very many hopes for the countries they serve. You know, the promises they made.
With your help, we will restore a new generation's faith in the possibility of having a government that serves. Not a government that rules. A government that inspires. Not a government that infuriates. A government that listens. Not a government that shouts.
So all these are some of the reasons why it is very easy to make a one-term president.
Mr. President, please repeat after me. I I, William Samoei Ruto.
So the biggest problem with Ruto now is because of the many promises he made and he cannot deliver. So let's get back to this memo by Rigathi Gachagua. Of course, we all know that President-elect Peter Mutharika was the president there before he was beaten by the incumbent. I think the incumbent got around 6% or 58% there, which is a huge number of votes, and that made him a president because of the many promises he came with. It is just like the case of Uhuru and Ruto. Ruto had many promises and he can't deliver them. That's the main reason why Kenyans are now speaking loudly and saying that we can't board that ship anymore. We need to make a huge change. So the one-term formation by Rigathi Gachagua has been, taken to the whole continent debate one term. So perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.